Hey everybody, we're going to start the virtual session for the second part of Module 1. This should be where you should be at the part in your module where you're almost ready for the practice test, and hopefully this will be a good review. Some things to remember is on your practice test, make sure that you go back and look through your answers if you got any wrong and go over them and try to figure out how to get them right before you actually take the test. That will help you, give you a little bit heads up on the test and be able to hopefully learn from your mistakes. Okay, don't forget to fill out your reflection sheet. Today's topic is just going to be the second half of Module 1, which is multiplying and dividing with rational numbers. And then put your date you watched and explain what we do, and remember that we're going to have 3 problems for you to put on here. Okay, let's get started. All right, starting with multiplying rational numbers, here's the little notes that can help you remember. The way I remember is if they have the same signs, it's always positive. If they have different signs, it's always negative. And my stupid way to remember this, the only way I can think to remember it, is to say that if you are the same as me, I am positive you're cool. If you are not the same as me, you are not cool. Not meaning you're negative. All right, I mean, I'm not saying that about you. I'm just saying in general, you could have that be your saying. If we're the same, we're positive, we're cool. If we're not the same, then we're not cool. Okay, so see how these are the same. Positive and positive makes positive, negative and negative makes positive, but positive and negative are different. So it's going to be negative, different, it's going to be negative. All right, so what I like to do whenever I multiply or divide is with positives and negatives is I like to make sure that I get the sign first. So with this first problem, I have a positive and a negative. Since these are different signs, I know my answer is going to be negative. So I can go ahead and put that negative down right away. And then I can multiply. 25 times 5 is 125. Okay, so really the only hard part about that problem is to know whether it's going to be positive or negative. All right, now when we have 3, you have to kind of do this in pairs here. So we have a problem with 3 problems. So right now I have the same signs. So the same signs are going to be positive. So negative 4 times negative 2 is actually going to be a positive 8. And then I'm going to multiply that times negative 5. One quick thing that I forgot to mention on this first one, whenever you have parentheses right beside each other, that means multiply. Hopefully you already knew that at this point, but there's kind of like an invisible multiplication symbol there. All right, so back to where we were at. We just did the 4 times the 2. Now we're going to add in the negative 5. So now I have a positive times a negative, which means my answer is going to be negative because they're not the same. All right, and 8 times 5 is 40. So make sure you start off with figuring out what your symbol is going to be, your sign first, because that way you don't forget to put it in. I make a lot of mistakes, and I have forgotten to put that in many a time. All right. So with this one, I have a positive and a negative problem multiplying each other. And remember, this is a number 1, so add this to your reflection sheet. I have a positive and a negative, so I know my answer is going to be negative. Let me clear this page here real quick so that we can have more room to work. Okay, so we have a positive and a negative, so my answer is going to be negative because we have different signs. They are not the same, they're negative. All right, then I want to do around the world. Okay, so I have, remember, whenever we do around the world, we multiply the first and we add the second. So we're taking 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 4, which is 14, and our denominator stays the same. Okay, and we're going to multiply that, and I can just forget about the symbol right here and just remember that it's going to be, it doesn't matter, because at the end, my answer is going to be negative. So don't let that get in your way. Okay, now I'm going to take 5 times 3, which is 15, plus 2, which is 17. And my denominator stays the same. So at this point I can cross-reduce if I can. Well, 5 and 17 are both prime numbers. I can't cross-reduce those. And 14 and 3, there's nothing that can go into both of those. 3 is also a prime number. So unless 3 can go into 14, it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to have to work with these big numbers. So this is where my trusty calculator can come out if I don't want to sit there and multiply the larger numbers. So I've got 14 times 70. Or 17, excuse me. I'm going to put it over here because I'm running out of room, but it's 238. And then 5 times 3 is 15. Now I cannot leave it as this improper fraction. I need to get it back to a mixed number. So I'm going to take 238 divided by 15. My whole number here is 15. I'm going to put that over here with my negative. Okay? So 15 times 15 is 225. So from there, I'm going to count up to see how many more I would have had to get in to make it a 238. So in that 225, that means that there would be 13 more to get to 238. So 13, and then my denominator stays the same. And that cannot reduce, so I know that I'm done right there. The biggest issue is to remember that that's a negative. Remember, we put that down there first so we didn't forget it. If I wanted to check my work now, would be a good time to go ahead and put that in my calculator to make sure that I am right. And hopefully you are. Okay, so next problem is dividing with rational numbers. Same rules apply. If they are the same symbol, it's going to be positive. If they're different symbols, it's going to be negative. Here we got a number 2, so make sure you're putting this one on your reflection sheet. Okay, again, we have a positive and a negative. So if we have different signs, it's going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down there already, so I'm ready to go with that. And now I'm just saying, how many times can 5 go into 25? Well, we know 5 times 5 is 25, so it's got to be 5. There's not really much work to show with this, so in your little working area, you can do what I've done there, or you can just put no work. But or you could even explain in that little work area that you know that it's going to be negative because the signs are different. Okay, over here, why don't you guys pause it and try to do this on your own. Remember the theory, keep it, switch it, flip it. Try to do this one on your own, and then unpause it, and I'll work through it, and you can see if you got it right. All right, so I have a negative and a negative, so I know my answer is going to be positive. The signs are the same, so it's going to be positive. All right, now I'm going to change that. I'm going to pretend the signs aren't even there. So I'm going to keep the first one. Remember when you're doing division with fractions, you want to do a keep it, switch it. So we're going to switch that to multiplication, and we're going to flip that to our reciprocal. And then we can just multiply straight across. There's no cross reducing I need to do, so I'm ready to go. 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 times 5 is 5. Remember, I'm not going to leave it as an improper fraction. So 5 can go into 8 one whole time, and that leaves me 3 left over, and 5 stays the same. The denominator does not change. So we get a positive answer of 1 3/5. All right, last problem for your reflection sheet is number 3 here. Which fraction is equivalent to 4 and -9? All right, hopefully in the lesson you would have learned that it doesn't really matter where the negative symbol goes. The whole fraction goes together. So we could put it here in front where it just kind of goes with both. We can even do it like this, so it goes to both. Or it could go to the top or go to the bottom. Again, there's not really much work to show for this. You can write this out and just kind of explain it in the work section. But really, it just shows that this negative symbol can go with any of them. Okay? A positive symbol is not going to, or a positive fraction is not going to be the same. It's definitely negative. And if we have a negative divided by a negative, that makes a positive. So we don't want to go with that one. And here's another positive one. They just put the reciprocal in a positive form. So that's definitely not equivalent. But this one right here is equivalent because we have, let me get all those little marks off for a second. But we have the same fraction, just with the negative symbol with a different number. Remember, anytime you have a positive and a negative, it's going to equal negative. Different signs, you are not cool. So it's negative. So it doesn't matter which one it goes to. Either way, the answer is going to be a negative answer. Guys, I know that was a very quick review. If you have more questions, feel free to come to our help session on Wednesday, or come to in-house with your questions, or just ask me over an email. Otherwise, make sure when you do your practice test, you go back and look at the answers that you got wrong. Let me know if you have any other questions, but good luck on your test.